Except maybe two.
稲妻を呼ぶライダーキック敵を倒したライダーチョップ
Two heroes? Kamen Rider. Hello and welcome back to Earth Alien ProtoMet. And today I'll continue my review of the original Kamen Rider. Now, where did I leave off? Ah, yes. Hayato Ichimonji, a freelance photographer and motorcycle enthusiast, is kidnapped by the sinister organization, Shocker, which transforms him into a powerful cyborg as part of their plot to conquer the world. However, thanks to the intervention of Takashi Hongo, Shocker's arch-nemesis, Ichimonji manages to escape before the organization can brainwash him. As Hongo departs to battle Shocker around the world, Hayato Ichimonji, grateful for being saved, remains in Japan to battle Shocker as Kamen Rider. Number 2. You may have noticed that there's no actual footage of Hongo rescuing Ichimonji. The reason for that is because Ichimonji wasn't originally going to be part of the series. While filming for the show, Hiroshi Fujioka, who played Hongo, was involved in an accident that left him unable to continue working for a while. With how rapidly popular this series had become, Toei knew they couldn't just cancel the show, and so wrote Hongo out and replaced him with Ichimonji, at least temporarily. Ichimonji is quite a different character than Hongo, being much more outgoing than Hongo ever was during his time on the show. In fact, we don't see any of his reaction to now being a cyborg, and he just seems to take it in stride. Ichimonji's introduction as the second Kamen Rider also sees the introduction of one of the most famous elements of Tokusatsu, the Henshin pose, which allows him to transform without needing the wind power that Hongo had previously required. This does mean that there are fewer scenarios where the hero struggles to transform, but that does mean that Ichimonji, and later Hongo, which I'll discuss later, are able to jump right into the action when the need arises. Tobe Tachibana remains as the mentor character, keeping the show's cast from being completely changed, though his snack shop is now changed to a motorcycle club and later the headquarters of a group of children I'll address later. But the first new addition to the supporting cast is Taki Kazuya, a friend of Hongo's who's also an FBI agent investigating Shocker. He's introduced before Hongo is written out of the show, but only just. That having been said, he is the most helpful side character in the show, being both aware of the true identities of the Kamen Riders and actively engaging in battles with Shocker agents despite his own lack of any superpowers. Alongside the departure of Hongo, so too went Ruriko, with her deciding to leave with him on his battle against Shocker, the implication being that she figured out that Hongo and Kamen Rider were the same person. Replacing her are a trio of women who are, quite frankly, barely worth mentioning. They don't really have notable personalities and are largely just around to act as damsels in distress to motivate the men. I miss Ruriko. When Hongo does eventually return, and I will get to that, Ruriko is nowhere to be found. Instead, he's joined by a different pair of women, and I'm pretty sure they stick around to replace some of the previously mentioned damsels. I think there's at least one other that shows up, but I really couldn't be bothered to pay attention since they all kind of blend together in my mind. And rounding out the new cast is a young boy named Goro, who's much more memorable of a character than the women. He acts as a stand-in for the show's target audience, and he connects with a lot of the kids that increasingly become involved in Shocker's sinister plots. But later in the series, he too finds himself replaced, this time by his friends Naoki and Mitsuru, who soon become among the founding members of a group of children that aid Kamen Rider as the Kamen Rider Scouts. On the topic of the increasing presence of children, Shocker's monsters change from being somewhat creepy to downright cartoonish. Shocker's schemes also become much more cartoonish as well. The grunts become similar in appearance to luchadors, which is how pop culture now remembers them. And a trio of generals are introduced to help coordinate Shocker's increasingly outlandish plots. Colonel Zoll, a strict officer who's willing to kill even his own comrades for a minor infraction and who speaks with a minor lisp. Dr. Shinigami, a leading Shocker scientist who can't seem to decide if he needs a wheelchair or not, and Ambassador Hell, who wears the most outrageous outfit of the three, and who is the most conniving of the lot. But thankfully, as mentioned before, Hongo does return to the series to help Ichimonji battle against Shocker's new commanders, and the two work together like gears in a well-oiled machine. Hongo even retakes his role as the lead character for a good chunk of episodes, with Ichimonji briefly leaving the show for no reason given, but he still pops back in every so often to keep Shocker on their toes. And when these two Kamen Riders fight side by side, we get some of the most epic moments in the whole show. Eventually, Shocker falls to the Kamen Riders, and to keep them from being eliminated completely, they join forces with another organization, Geldam, to become Gel Shocker, commanded by the cruel General Black. And Gel Shocker proves their villainy right from the get-go, brutally eliminating all remnants of the old Shocker in swift fashion. They even managed to accomplish what Shocker could not, creating their own evil Kamen Rider. 6 of them, in fact. At 98 episodes, this is the longest entry in the Kamen Rider franchise, and one of the longest shows in Tokusatsu. But the show wasn't intended to end at only 98 episodes, but I'll talk more about that some other time. As far as the original Kamen Rider goes, there's a reason why even to this day it has a strong presence in Japanese pop culture, and I strongly recommend you give this series a watch. And until next time, this has been me, ProtoMet. See ya.